I don't know, okay, it's recording now, I think.
Yes, okay. All right, so today my presentation will focus on manipulating CSS class properties with JavaScript. So just to, brush our memory about CSS, because this is the first topic of the list that deals with CSS. And CSS is an acronym that stands for Cascade Style Sheet, and basically it's the second most important technology that today we use for building websites, and it basically takes care of the look of the style of a web page, and it's great because with CSS we can actually separate the HTML structure, so the content of a web page from its look, from its style. And JavaScript actually is the third great tool that we use to build website, and actually it can manipulate HTML elements as well as CSS properties, and that's what we will see today together. Okay, so in order for JavaScript to manipulate a property like a CSS property, the first step to take is to target an HTML element within JavaScript, the JavaScript file. So to identify an HTML element and hold it in a variable, there are several methods that include the ones that I listed here. So we can target an element by its ID or by name, or using the query selector function, or we can also target a set of HTML elements, so that one JavaScript variable will hold like a sort of array of HTML elements, but it's not like an array as we are used to think about it. And we can use functions like getElements by class name, or even better, query selector all. We will see anyway later. Okay, so the second step to take is, to use, there are two options actually to tell JavaScript to intervene on the style of an element. So we can use the style attribute to access the CSS properties and assign a value. And for example, as you can see here, so one is our JavaScript variable. So we are targeting the element by ID. So header is the ID of an HTML element in the page. And then in the last row, we see that we are we're calling the style attribute, and we are modifying the color property by giving the value blue. So this is one option. And the second option is to use the set attribute function to access the HTML style attribute and assign a value. So very similar to the previous method. So we target the element, and then we use the set attribute with style specified. Oh, sorry. And then the string of CSS property. So it is quite straightforward so far. we can actually ask how do we manipulate several, so multiple properties for a single element, and how do we actually target multiple HTML elements and modify multiple properties for all of them all together. So how do we manipulate multiple properties? So one way to change multiple properties of a single element in one declaration is by using the CSS text property. So first we save the CSS properties as a string. So for example, let's suppose we want to modify the font size, the color, and the alignment of the text of a specific HTML element. So first we create our string of CSS properties, as you can see here. And then we basically pass this string as you can see here. So we first target the element, so get element by ID, and then we attach the CSS text property there, and we assign the string as a value. But I will show you later. Let me know if there is any question about it. And finally, okay, so multiple properties on multiple elements. So we first need to target the set of HTML elements. So for example, as you can see here, I used the query selector all, and I indicated the dot class name is just like a yeah, just an example. So as you can see, I used the dot because the dot in CSS is used for class selectors. So any HTML element that has the class attribute with a specific value in common will be targeted by this statement. The second step is to save, as I have shown in the previous slide, to save the CSS properties as a string. And the third step is to loop through the set of elements and pass the string of properties. So the query selector all, that statement actually returns a set of elements. And so this instruction at the bottom loops through those set of elements and assign the properties. That's actually a verified working solution that I'm sharing with you. Probably there are other methods, but that's one that I found solid, I mean, so far. So this is an example from my application. So I have this unordered list, and every bullet point in this list has an attribute class with the same value. So bullet. And in the JavaScript, I'm using this query selector all, so dot bullet, to target all of them together at once. Then I'm building the string of CSS properties here, and then I'm looping for the set of elements, and then assigning this string of properties. And I think this is it. Now I want to show you some of my code, and okay. All right, now you can see Okay. Okay, so this is my page. And so there are actually several ways we can trigger the manipulation of CSS properties, but that's an extra step. So as you can see, I'm changing the style of this header just by hovering over it, and this is the manipulation for one single element. But here I have some example of a set of elements modified altogether. So for example, all of the labels and input fields are modified altogether. So this is the original, and this is the manipulated version. Same thing with with an unordered list of items here. So this is the manipulated version all at once. And here there's another example of one property for one single element. So the moment I go over the thumbnail, actually the background image of this second HTML element changes and takes that picture as background. And that's it. I think these are all the possible combinations of tasks, with CSS manipulation. Let me see. Okay, so this is my JavaScript code. So yeah, I mean there are many ways we can trigger the manipulation. There are instances where I use the style CSS text statement, query selector all. I use here the set attribute in the loop. This is another way to remove the style. So for the set of elements, so basically I assign the none value to style, and when I click the bottom, they basically loses any change. Or you can use the remove attribute, and and yeah, I think that's it. This is the example where I'm using actually one specific properties with style instead of the CSS text property. And yeah, I mean that's it. Let me know if you have any question or doubt or something. Ready to address now.
Don't. This seems a lot easier than what I've been making it out to be over the week.
I'm glad to know that.
What about, let me see the CSS file for this topic.
Sure.
Oh, wow, there's hardly anything. So did you put the style that you wanted in here first, or and then altered it in this, your other styles inside your JavaScript file?
Well, here in the CSS file, there's just like global style settings, you know, for the page or um, for some like very, very basic settings for other elements. But the real manipulation actually is like happens within the JavaScript file. You know, for example, when I was talking about multiple CSS properties, you know, to manipulate for one single element. So you see that here I prepared, you know, my string of CSS properties in a very similar fashion, you know, as it happens in a CSS file, as you can see. And then uh, yeah, in this loop, you know, I used this variable to distribute all these properties to each element of this set. So basically I'm saying for each element of this set here, the set is here. So this is the way I targeted all the all the elements of the form, you know, so all the labels and
Okay, flip over to the HTML and show me where
sure.
class field is.
Okay. So okay, so this is the form. So I have
Oh, I was expecting it to say field. It says LAB. Oh no, it says okay.
see.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, I have labels here, having class lab, and then input having class field. So in this, sorry, here I'm actually first targeting the labels here.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the lab, and then I'm targeting the fields with the class name dot field, and then here in the function, I'm actually preparing the string of CSS properties for the labels, and then I loop through the elements returned by this query, okay, and then I'm assigning with CSS text the string of properties here, okay, and the same I'm doing with the input elements, but in this loop I just decided to use set attribute instead of style CSS text. They actually reach the same goal. Okay, it's just a different way to achieve the same result. Okay, so in every case, you need first to target the element or set of elements. Then you need to prepare the string of properties in case you want to modify multiple CSS properties. And then you loop through the set, and you can use style, CSS text, or set attribute, you know, according to.
Okay, just in that one example you're showing, like I don't understand. You're looping through. You selected the whole thing. It says, are we on var fields or labels? Which one?
So in this case, let me show you. In this case, I'm actually modifying the style of the whole form.
Okay.
But the form is made by labels and input fields.
Right.
So I need to intervene, you know, on all of them, yeah, all at once. And the way I can do that is to, you know,
So let me just understand. Let me just see if I can read this, because I can usually read
Go ahead.
So this document query selector all is going to select all of the class that says LAB.
Yes, all the labels.
Inside your HTML. It's going to sort in this thing called labels, and the other one's going to go get all the fields.
Correct.
And put it into a variable fields.
Yes.
And then you're coming here.
Yeah.
and styling the form, and it says,
I'm styling just the labels. So this is the properties that I want to give to the labels.
okay.
Okay, so
And then so for you're going through this, but this is the part.
yeah.
Oh, I got it.
So
I got it.
okay, all right.
Because it's labels, labels from upstairs.
Yeah.
The first 0 through whatever how many he gets.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Got it. Now I got it. Sorry.
No problem. That's why we're here.
No, because I can usually read stuff, strangely enough, but I wasn't following that. All right. What about you, Ryan? Any more questions?
Not right now.
All right. Well, I'm going to shut this off.
Okay.
Stop.